Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we will be talking about scale-up worker visa in the UK, a new migration route that has been recently opened. And to give you the most update and accurate information, I have a special guest here with me, Yash Dubal, a managing director at AY&J Solicitors. He's also an UK immigration expert, sharing a lot of useful information previously on this channel and especially on his own YouTube channel and LinkedIn. So Yash, hello, welcome back to my channel.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for finding time to talk about the scale-up visa. So let's just jump right into it. I want to ask you, what is this visa about? How is it different comparing to, let's say, skilled worker visa in the UK that people are already familiar with?
Yeah, sure. So scale-up visa is a very new category. We are in October 2022 when recording this video because the information get outdated very quickly in UK immigration. So it's a new immigration category as of now for businesses. They are fast growing. And of course, we will cover that in a minute. What does it mean? But the main difference between the normal skilled worker visa and scale-up route is under skilled worker visa, you have to be with the sponsor and you have to have ongoing sponsorship throughout the period you work for the sponsored employer. Where on scale-up visa, you need sponsorship only for the first 6 months. And after that, you can work without any sponsorship, with any employer in any job. So that's the biggest difference. And the other difference is quite key, where under skilled worker visa, you can take job role up to RQF level 3, which is a lower threshold, where in scale-up visa, the job should be at graduate level. Generally, it's a graduate level job role. So it requires a little bit of higher threshold of the job role. So I think these are the two key difference I can think of for between skilled worker visa and scale-up visa.
Great, that makes sense. Obviously, you did mention the scale-up business, the business that's going fast. A lot of international students and people that I talk to that want to immigrate to the UK, they're asking me, okay, but how do I find out which business is scale-up business? Because it's quite vague. And is there a way to check for a candidate themselves, or do they have to get professional help to find out?
Absolutely. So a scale-up business is a business that falls under the OECD definition of high growth business. And just to make it simpler for the audience, the business should have annualized growth of at least 20% for the previous 3 years, either through number of staff count or through their turnover. Mm-hmm. And they must have had minimum of 10 employees at the start of the relevant 3-year period. Mm-hmm. So, in previous 3 years, 20% growth, whether it's staff or the turnover, and at the start of the turnover, they should have minimum 10 employees. So that's called scale-up business. And these businesses can then apply for a scale-up sponsor license. And once they have that license, then they can recruit overseas skilled staff under scale-up visa.
Right. So it's a different sponsorship.
Absolutely. So it's not the normal sponsor license. It's a different sponsor license the business has to apply. That's called scale-up sponsor license. And once they have that approval, then they can recruit overseas skilled staff under scale-up visa.
Right. So I assume that the candidate would need to be aware to communicate that to a company, or ask an immigration expert to communicate that to a potential.
So I think the easier way is to ask the employer if they fall into this definition. Mm-hmm. There is no public list of scale-up businesses.
Mm-hmm. Right, that makes sense. So that's a very big difference that people need to be aware of. The other one, as you said, the level of the job is higher. Does it mean that salary requirement is higher as well? And do you know the salary requirement for this?
Yeah, sure. So the salary requirement is minimum £33,000 per annum under scale-up route, or the ongoing rate, whichever is higher. So someone who is applying for scale-up visa, two things to check. One is minimum £33,000 and other is the ongoing rate based on the SOC code. Between these two number, whichever the number is higher, that's the number they should be paid as a salary.
Right, that makes sense. And the ongoing rate can be kind of checked on a Gov.uk website. I've checked that before.
And one more thing I want to add, there is no new entrant rate. So there is no discounted salary threshold for students or younger applicants for scale-up visa.
That's a very important point, because there are some international students that sometimes can lower the salary threshold for skilled worker visa if they're recent graduate and they're switching from a student visa, let's say. But if you want to be on this scale-up worker visa that has extra benefits, unfortunately, at least 33,000 is what you have to make, perhaps even
absolutely higher.
Depending on a role. You already kind of answered that question, but since there are the requirement for the salary is higher and also the skilled level is higher, does it mean that there are less positions that you can apply for a scale-up visa as compared?
I believe so. Yeah, it's not for everyone. It's for first thing first. The business has to be high growth business, 20% annualized growth over last 3 years period, and the job role should be at graduate levels position, and the salary has to be minimum at 33 or above. So yes, it's not for everyone. Where skilled worker visa has opened up so much. So I think I did write an article recently. It has the highest number ever we have seen in skilled worker visa, because of course the government has reduced the threshold to RQF level 3. Where just in layman terms, just to make the audience aware, a shopkeeper in shop, convenience store can qualify. A PA, personal assistant, can qualify under skilled worker route. And the reason I'm mentioning this position is to just give them an idea what sort of positions are qualifying for skilled worker visa. So, and the salary threshold for students to switch into skilled worker, it starts from 20,480, which is a much, much lower threshold. So still, scale-up visa might be enticing for those who can qualify for it, because then after 6 months, they don't need sponsorship anymore.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest difference, is that you don't have to stay in your job for the whole time of your visa. We already kind of mentioned that with a skilled worker visa, if you lose your job or you quit your job or you want to switch your job, it's a new visa. With a scale-up visa, after 6 months, you're welcome to stay in UK legally, right, and no longer be employed. But how long can you stay on this visa?
So initially you get 2 years, and then you can extend it for 3 more years. And after 5 years, you could qualify for permanent residency, which is settlement, and also known as ILR, indefinite leave to remain.
Wow, that's great. So there's another way to qualify for PR, and you only have to be 6 months initially.
In sponsorship, yeah.
Great. And so for a lot of my people in the audience and my clients, this visa is very attractive. How can, and obviously it's still not very clear how to apply for it. What help can you offer from AY&J Solicitors if they need help with this visa, if they just need a consultation to find out how can they obtain this visa?
Yeah, sure. So that's 2-step process. Number 1 is to get the sponsor license for the company, and the number 2 step is to get the skilled worker visa, scale-up visa for the migrant or the overseas skilled staff. Now we can help for both the stages. That's what we do at least probably 70-80% time of in our business, helping businesses to get license and get the migrant or overseas skilled staff their skilled worker visa or scale-up visa. So we can provide end-to-end support, starting first evaluating the company, whether they fall into the scale-up category or not, having this high growth over last 3 years. And then if they do qualify, we'll help them to get the license, and then we'll help the overseas skilled staff to either switch their immigration status or help them come over under scale-up visa. So that's what we can help, yes, as a professional.
Great. So from a careers perspective, I just want to explain to any candidate that is interviewing, sometimes it's in your hands to explain your visa options, and sometimes it's in your hands to negotiate with a business what options are there. And it's not unheard of when companies got either the sponsorship license for skilled worker visa, but now I assume for scale up visa sponsorship as well. So sometimes it could be the candidate that initiates the conversation,
Yeah.
the immigration help from experts. So you can't assume that the company will do all the work or they will be aware of all the options. Sometimes you do have to start that conversation, and perhaps while you are doing an internship with the firm, while you are working on a different type of visa with the firm, you can suggest that and ask AY&J Solicitors to help. On the other hand, if you own the business and you are growing fast, it's also an opportunity to bring talent in a very effective way, because it's not that easy to get the skilled worker sponsorship, and there are more restrictions.
True.
Yeah, perfect. So how much does it cost to get this visa if I was a candidate? And do you know
sure.
who pays for it?
Yeah, so I can share the news. So the visa application fees is £715 for scale-up visa, whether you apply in the UK or outside the UK. The biggest benefit is for the employer. They don't need to pay £199 for certificate sponsorship as in skilled worker visa. They just only pay £21 to assign the certificate of sponsorship. So it's much less cost assigning CUS, but the home office fees is £750, which is more or less same as skilled worker visa.
Perfect. So yes, it is, as we mentioned before, kind of more attractive way for business to get international workers. It's not as expensive.
Yeah. And another point I want to mention, there wouldn't be any requirement of certificate sponsorship to extend the visa. Unless the applicant is applying to change the employment within the first 6 months.
Wow. So
after 6 months,
right,
no need any certificate of sponsorship or any sponsorship, because they will be on their own. They can work in any job,
right,
with any employer.
So you mean that after that even 3 years extra that you change to extend, you don't need a new sponsorship?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wish I had this visa when I was finishing university, especially for someone who's finishing university in the UK at an MBA level, at a master's level. That could be a good option. Might not all undergraduates will fall under this category, but there are a lot of people who have a lot of experience that come into the UK to do a course. Do you have any thoughts from you? What are the benefits of this visa for someone who is already in the UK, or maybe someone who is not in the UK yet, or as a business owner? Anything that you mentioned before?
I think if I put my analysis of this scale-up visa, I think so it's more benefit to the skilled staff, the overseas skilled staff who is switching into or coming over from abroad, because after 6 months, they would not require any sponsorship. I think when someone is here under sponsorship, their biggest stress is, what if something was to go wrong with their sponsorship and they are under control of the employer all the time? So that's kind of concern they might have, or stress they might have. It won't be there if it's scale up visa, because after 6 months, if you work with that employer for 6 months, then you are free from sponsorship after 6 months, and it gives you that independent right to work for next 4.5 years before you qualify for permanent residence. I think that's the biggest benefit. For employer, the benefit I can think of is after 6 months, they would not have any sponsorship duties, because bear in mind, it's not just for the employee to remain under sponsorship, but also for the employer to maintain and manage their sponsorship duties for 5 years. And it's very rigorous. You won't believe, we do help a lot of organizations when they get into trouble with their sponsorship duties, and they get their license suspended or even revoked. So if someone is a very fast growing company, they don't want to get into this complication of sponsorship duties, right? Because they have a fast growth. They want to, just focus on their business and expansion rather than sponsorship duties. So, and then same time, it's much less cost for them. It's just 6 months of sponsorship rather than entire 5 years. So bear in mind, they have to pay for immigration skill charge as well, immigration skill charge. That's the cost to the employer. They can save that as well. So I think There are benefits for both the side, but bear in mind, Valeria, it's just for a few percentage of employers who could qualify for it. And of course, for few percentage of overseas skilled staff, if they fit into the graduate level position and being picked up by the scale up businesses to work for them.
Yeah. That's a very good summary. I think that's a very good way to end without repeating what we have already mentioned, and for people to understand the gist. Obviously, I will leave the link to Home Office a website for anyone to have a look at this policy. But I also want to encourage to follow Yash on LinkedIn. I follow you because you always have this amazing perspectives, not just on this visa, but just all different routes to immigrate to UK, and just lots of recent updates, because there are things that come in all the time.
Thank
Where
you
can
so
we
much.
find you? Where shall we follow you to keep in touch?
I think the best place is just visit my website, AY&J Solicitors.com, and from there you will find my social media channels on the top of the web. Even if you type in Google AY&J Solicitors, you will definitely find us on first page of Google. And even in Google News, if you search for my name, Yash Dubal, or company, you will find a lot of articles which we provide a lot of analysis as an industry expert in UK immigration. So yeah, happy to help, Valeria, anytime.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon in the next video. I'm sure there'll be more visas that come up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.